My first Goldwing was the 6-speed. My Goldwing now is a DCT. I think it's amazing. The DCT is quite amazing. If you want it to be high performance, it is.
This video is sponsored by Cruiseman's Garage Honda Goldwing Maintenance Video Series.
So I'm here today with my friend Dale Jones. He was doing some test riding for me on this NT1100. You can see he's got an Africa Twin. He's also got a Honda Goldwing out here in his driveway. So Dale, tell me a little bit about what you want to share about this NT1100.
Good morning, everybody. I just wanted to compare the NT1100 to the CRF 1100 Africa Twin. Both of these motorcycles are equipped with the DCT. And I just wanted to talk about a little bit about the differences. First off, this is really a sport touring bike. First, the DCT, I should explain, that's not an automatic transmission, but it is an electrically shifted 6-speed transmission. First, the seating arrangement on these motorcycles is similar. It's almost like you're sitting in this motorcycle instead of on top. What really differentiates this bike being an adventure and this bike being a sport touring bike, if you can see that they're sitting side by side with the wheels in about the same place, the handlebars are much further forward on the NCT as opposed to the Africa Twin, which gives you a more aggressive stance when you're sitting on the motorcycle. The seat heights are about the same. It's slightly lower on the NT, making it easier to get on and off for sure. The inseam, my inseam is about 32 inches. I'm about 5'9.5" inches tall. I have no problem sitting on this and touching the ground with both feet, and obviously I don't with this one either. The windshield is good on this bike, better than Africa Twin. You can see how much wider this one is than that. It's quite adequate in my opinion. Both of them require that you to be stopped when changing the windshield height. It takes both hands to adjust these windshields, and you can see it goes way down, allowing you to get plenty of air. Or if you want some rain protection or some cold weather protection, or if you just like being behind the windshield, it goes way up. I found that it was best about midway, about there. With it all the way down, my helmet was quite noisy and buffeted around because I wear a XD5 Arai helmet that has the visor and it catches the wind when it's all the way down. Same way with the Africa Twin, it takes both hands to adjust it. It's probably even easier on that bike than it is with, and the range is very limited on this bike compared to that. On both bikes, I found that the brakes are smooth and predictable, regardless of how hard you squeeze it. It doesn't lock up the front tire with the ABS, of course, and it's not grabby at all. It's really smooth and linear. Allows you to brake it really smooth, and both of the bikes have adjustable reach knobs on them, so you can change the reach on it. On both bikes, since they're the same engines, there's not much to compare there. They both give you really good power at any speeds, you know, whether it's doing 40 or 50 mile an hour on twisty roads, all the way up to 70, 75 miles an hour on the highways. They're both adequate there. I found that this bike at 70 miles an hour was about 4,000 RPMs, and it made it smooth. It wasn't buzzy at all.
Were the transmissions geared similar, you think?
Very similar, and of course, they're so adjustable.
Right.
The transmissions are so adjustable with the different ride modes and the different sport and drive modes that you can cause it to shift at anywhere you like. And we've talked about this before, Chris, that the transmissions are intuitive and learn how we ride. And I found that this one really did. It picked up on my style. I've ridden it 600 miles or so. And within that time, it's really changed its shift patterns for me to suit me. I know that there's a lot of complaints about the DCT having a lot of low end. It feels like you're lugging the bike. Mm-hmm. This one's no longer doing that to me at all, even in the drive mode. Okay. When I take off and roll on the throttle, it just goes. It doesn't feel like you need to downshift.
How would you compare the suspension on the two bikes?
This has more travel. This Africa Twin has larger fork legs, so it does dive more when you're braking. I know that you made the point that this motorcycle dives a little bit. I didn't find it obtrusive at all, and found it actually smooth. I think the suspension is good on both of the bikes. Of course, this motorcycle is equipped, because it's the adventure sports model, it is equipped with the electronic suspension that I can adjust on the fly, depending on the weight, how much rebound, how much damping that you want. This one is not adjustable electronically. You can adjust the suspension here. It is just preload. You can adjust the damping on this motorcycle, just the preload. And you can adjust the preload on the rear, and I don't see it from where I'm here. It is. So you can adjust the preload here as well.
Did you adjust it?
I didn't adjust it at all, and I found that the preload on the rear is a little bit stiff.
Is it?
Yes. It was okay. I don't mind a stiff bike. So the mirrors are good. No vibration in either mirror. They're the same mirrors that are on this bike. Maybe this one's a little bit taller stem, but these were fine and very adequate. Good view. This motorcycle was equipped with these side bags, which are really spacious bags. They come with liners that go in, and they don't
I think
look.
those are extra.
They probably are optional.
$65 extra for those.
But the bags are quite spacious. You can see that I have a full face helmet in that one.
Nice. Yeah.
And they're easily removed and installed.
Which brings up another point, is about putting this bike on the center stand, because I know you and I both struggle with that with the bags on.
This bike also has a top case available that's color matched, similar to this. So yeah, that's a good point, Chris. And I cheat when it comes to putting these motorcycles on the center stand. You see, I have this. It's something I bought at the local hardware store. It's rubber, and these are really old. These are probably 10 or 15 years old. And when I bring the motorcycle in, I roll the rear tire up on that tile, and it lifts the motorcycle this far for me.
And it helps.
So it helps.
That's a good idea.
So I'm glad you brought that up, because this motorcycle, especially when you're taking it off the center stand, I don't do it when I'm on the motorcycle. It's too tall. It's just too tall. And so it doesn't get away from me. The first time that I dropped this motorcycle was right here in my driveway, taking it off the center stand. I had the wheel, or the handlebar, slightly turned, and when I came off the center stand, over she went, and I couldn't stop it. It was just too heavy. These bikes are about the same weight as well, at around 540 or 50 pounds.
Right.
So my tip to taking this off the center stand is to set the parking brake. And I've made mention to you before that I love the parking brake on this motorcycle because of its location. It's so far out there you can't reach it inadvertently and think it's a clutch and apply a brake. So when I take this motorcycle off the center stand, I set the parking brake and just simply rock forward. I have the center stand down, or the side stand down, so it just goes right over. Makes it super easy.
And the parking brake keeps it from rolling away from you.
It does. Same with this one. The parking brake is, for whatever reason, Honda put it on this side. I would prefer it was over here like that one, because I just have fallen in love with that parking brake as compared to my Goldwing or this one. But same thing, just take it off the stand, let it fall over onto the side stand. Then take your brake off when you get ready to leave. Obviously, when you want to put it back on the center stand, get the bike straight. I get it up on my little cheater thing there. I take handhold of the mount for the bag.
Oh, okay.
Easy as pie.
So it is easier without the bags. It's almost
impossible. The bag is kind of in your, when you take this motorcycle on and off the stand, your leg needs to be really close to the motorcycle, and that bag's in the way. So I took it off. I wasn't going to say that. I was going to let people find that out the hard way. I like the bags. The handling is smooth and quick. With that short front wheel, it's quick to steer. It steers really well. I took it on some twisty roads on Tuesday, and it was quite adequate. It felt really good. I rode with a couple other men. One was on a Goldwing, one was on a GS, and I wasn't trying to leave them, but they weren't waiting. I wasn't waiting on them, but I guess what I'm saying is it steers really quickly.
These are 17s?
Yes.
What is on the
This
Africa?
is a 21 on this model, but the newer ones have reduced the front wheel to I believe it's a 18.
Really?
Yes. I did want to talk about the DCT transmission a little bit because I talk about it a lot because I'm so impressed with the DCT, and I get a lot of people that say, I know how to shift. I know how to shift as well. I've been riding motorcycles over 50 years. I can shift, and I can shift rather well. But I can tell you that the DCT I purchased this bike with the DCT because I was curious. My first Goldwing was the 6-speed. My Goldwing now is a DCT. I think it's amazing. The DCT is quite amazing. If you want it to be high performance, it is. If you want it to be smooth and comfortable for long distance touring, it is. So it's so adjustable with the different ride modes and the sport and drive modes that it'll do whatever you need it to do. It shifts really quick, and you'd be surprised. I don't drag race my motorcycles, but I wouldn't be surprised that this was quicker than a non-DCT in the same bike. So yeah, I'm a big fan of the DCT now. I think it's probably going to be the coming thing on motorcycles with all the motorcycles that are offering quick shifters and such things as that now. People say, well, I like to shift. Well, you know, I did too. And I found out that the part I like about shifting was the sound that it makes when you shift. And I still get that. This motorcycle still shifts. And as a matter of fact, when it downshifts, it makes me smile really wide. I really love the sound of it.
You've got the manual.
Yeah, you shift it manually with the paddle shifters down and up here. And of course, when the engine is off, the motorcycle's in neutral. So you want to make sure you use this parking brake when it's in neutral, especially if it's on an incline. Let's talk about the maintenance on these motorcycles. Since they're the same, some people might be a little bit apprehensive to use a motorcycle with a chain. And these O-ring chains are really durable now, last a long time. I wouldn't be surprised that you get 20,000 plus miles out of a chain. As long as you keep it adjusted properly and cleaned and lubed. I typically, when I'm on a multi-day trip, I'll check and adjust my chain, if necessary, every 2 days. I don't feel the need to do it every day anymore. If it gets dirty because I ride on a gravel or dirt road with this adventure bike, then obviously I clean it before. And I learned from another YouTuber that I watch sometimes. He suggested that you just take a cloth rag and take a little bit of diesel fuel out of the end of a hose at a service station. You don't even have to buy any, just dribble it out the hose and wipe your chain good. And that makes a good lubricant as well as a good cleaner.
Good idea.
You don't want to use high pressure on a chain because they're O-ring permanently lubricated on the inside. You're just trying to keep it rust free. That's the big key. And if you see this, I've made myself a little kit that I keep here really handy to adjust the chain. And this is the axle and this is the chain adjustment. This is my measuring device. I've even made a couple lines on it to where the adjustment is. So I can do chain adjustments really quick and easy. You do that with it on the side stand. You have a specific place where you measure the chain from, and just pull up the chain, and you'll see that it's in the proper adjustment. This one's slightly different. You measure it from there down on that one. You can see that we talked about this the other day, Chris, that the swing arm is a little beefier on this motorcycle as compared to this one. This is cast, and this is cast and welded. It's quite a arm on this one. But either way, it's easy. The oil filter is just behind this cover easy to get to when you take that off. The DCT filter is on the side, making it super easy also. So the maintenance on this bike is super easy. The air filters can be changed, unlike a Goldwing where it takes me 3 or 4 or 5 hours to change the air filter on a Goldwing. I can do it in 30 minutes on this bike. Take the seat off, loosen the fuel tank, move the tank back as far as it'll go without disconnecting the hose, and you can reach the air filters. You do have to take some of this plastic off here, but it has 2 air filters, also high quality, so they don't have to be changed really often. The only thing that I don't do on this motorcycle maintenance wise is the valves. I don't have the tools or the expertise to do that, so I'd let the service department do that. I found that the seat was a little lacking on this, and I don't know if it's because I'm getting older and I hear that all the time, but I'm starting to agree with people that the seat was rather hard. It's a
So you've got the
butt buffer is on there, and it makes a difference. Otherwise, the seat's nice. It's a good material. It seems really durable. I don't know what they call that. It's similar to the Goldwing, but it doesn't scratch with my boot like it did on the Goldwing. Radiator on the front is large and leaves a lot of. I'm a little bit concerned that I might get some debris or a hole in that radiator or
I wonder if
something.
anybody makes a guard for that.
I would probably consider making one if I can't find one. I made some for this one. They're not on there now. I just went to the hardware store and bought some screen that you use to cover your gutter and made my own. I think this motorcycle is going to be a big hit. I know it already is in Europe. I think it's going to be a big hit mainly because the price point is like $12,000 is the starting price.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
I think it's a great bike for $12,000. It does support Apple CarPlay and Android Auto if that's what you want to do. I don't particularly care for that kind of technology, so I do on my Goldwing, but not on this bike. I need to keep my eyes up.
Right.
I did add a Garmin to this one. It's not on there right now, but it mounts right here, right in my sight, and I'm a big fan of that Garmin. This bike would be on my short list if I was looking for a sport touring bike or even a commuter bike. This bike would make a good commuter bike. With this DCT, I commuted 30 miles one way on a motorcycle for about 18 years when you're in heavy traffic, and I was going right through downtown Dallas every day, both directions. And it allows you to move to the most appropriate lane rather easily in slow traffic. This DCT would be a big plus for somebody that was commuting. Big plus.
And the bags.
And the bags, of course, yeah. I rode this motorcycle to Alaska last year that was over 11,000 miles. Just thinking how many times I didn't have to shift in 11,000 miles.
Right.
So it is, it makes it less effort to ride one of these motorcycles. Some people say the downside to having no clutch is you don't have that slow speed control that you get out of a clutch. You can learn to use your foot on the brake for the slow speed maneuvers.
Right.
And
Drag the rear brake.
drag the rear brake.
Let me ask you a question,
Certainly.
because I've had some people ask me about this as an adventure bike and a road bike. To me, the Africa Twin is a better road bike than this is an adventure bike. So I don't know.
Yeah,
Would you feel comfortable riding off-road
No.
extended for this on this motorcycle?
No, I wouldn't do it. It's not made for that.
It's not made for that.
And with probably the most specific reason that I could give for that is the handlebars. On an adventure bike, you want to keep your elbows up a little bit and back a little bit because you're going to be moving around. You might not be able to reach the handlebars well enough to do that on this. I wouldn't suggest it, and of course it doesn't have any kind of a off-road tire. If you're talking about going down a dirt road, then sure, why not?
Right.
But I wouldn't be aggressive with it.
Yeah.
You don't have, on this motorcycle, couple of the ride modes, the gravel mode and the dirt mode, or the off-road mode, allows you to turn off the ABS on the front but not on the rear. And it gives you different traction control, completely adjustable. How much traction control you want, because on an off-road motorcycle, you want to be able to skid the rear tire.
Right.
You don't really want to skid the front tire on the street or the dirt. It doesn't end well.
Yeah.
And then, of course, with the traction control off, allows you to keep that. If you're trying to go up an incline on dirt or gravel, you want that tire to be constantly spinning. Not a lot, but some.
Right.
You don't want it to stop, because as soon as it does, then you're going to stop, and then you might be in a predicament. Which is the reason that I wanted the DCT to start with on this motorcycle. I was considering, what if you're on an incline and you're stopped and you have to take off from a stop? It's a lot to do to deal with a clutch, a brake, and the throttle to take off going up a hill. With this bike, you just roll on.
Yeah.
And off she goes. So just make sure the traction control is off, because as soon as that wheel stops spinning, because of the traction control, you're going to lose momentum and
Right.
either have to start over or fall over.
Right.
Love the bike. Love the bike. It's fun to ride. Gets about 270 miles of range on a tank of fuel.
Not bad.
Obviously, with this, and I think all Hondas now, well, I can't speak for the sport bikes, but all three of these motorcycles use regular fuel, which is a plus. There's places where you can't buy anything but regular.
Right.
And obviously it's cheaper. And they all three of these bikes get about the same fuel economy at about 45 miles to the gallon. So that's just amazing.
Are the tanks similar size? Or
I think the tank might be slightly larger on this one. It looks larger, particularly the width. It's got to be. I didn't compare the specs on that. This Adventure Sports model does have a larger tank than the base model Africa Twin.
And are the electronics virtually the same?
Virtually the same, without having the extra ride modes for dirt and off-road that one has. But other than that, they're the same. They're completely adjustable. You can adjust the engine braking as well as the power on that. I don't usually mess with that. This one has wheelie control. This one may have. I haven't tried it. I don't turn it off in either bike. I don't have any need to do a wheelie. I'm not crossing logs or small ditches, so
Right.
I don't have any need to wheelie. So I just leave it off.
Well, what about going down Central Expressway at 70 miles an hour?
I'm past that in my motorcycle career. I don't find that exciting any longer. These bikes both have a 12-volt power supply as well as a USB. The headlight is amazing on this bike. Even without cornering lamps, it is a good headlight.
I agree.
Yeah. I could, even in daylight, if I turned it on high beam to gain people's attention, I could see it reflecting off of signs ahead, even in the day. So it's a really good headlight. And I think that's important on a motorcycle. My motto is see and be seen. Y'all probably heard that. And I like to follow that motto.
Ready.
Chris, I'd like to take just a moment to encourage people to, if they're able to, if they haven't taken a motorcycle safety foundation course, I suggest they do that. It's not a really advanced course or anything, but it does teach some basics. And if for no other reason, if you have loved ones that are concerned about you riding a motorcycle, any kind of safety training that you do it in front of them. Let them know what you're doing. It might ease their worry. So I think that's something. And also, when I teach the basic motorcycle safety course, I like to encourage my students not just to get out there and ride, but practice. All that practice makes you better. And I'm going to do a couple small maneuvers out here on this NT, making U-turns and quick stops. Those are things that I encourage people to do because it builds muscle memory. I don't particularly want you to be able to do a U-turn. That's not the intent. The intent is to cause one to turn their head, because our view is very limited unless we turn our head. That really gives us an unlimited view around us. And if we don't practice that, we forget to do it, and we don't do it. The other thing is quick stops, because most of our collisions are in intersections and in curves. By doing some quick stops, you'll be ready to do some quick stops instead of running into a car that turns left in front of you or stops suddenly in front of you when you might have been looking the opposite way. So a couple of quick stops, 3 to 5 minutes is all. I practice this almost every time that I ride. Unless I'm late for breakfast, I do this almost every time that I ride, because it gets you in not only the spirit, but it gets you ready with your muscle memory and things, so that the first time you do a quick stop, it's not out there in the intersection where you're not well versed. So here we go. I've got some cones laid out here on the pavement, 20 foot wide, which is what the requirement is in the Motorcycle Safety Foundation course. So by turning your head and looking at where you're going, that's easily doable in either direction. You can see how much I'm turning my head. You can't look at where you're going far enough. And you'll also see by my brake lights that I'll be using the rear brake to control my speed, where normally I might use my clutch. My handlebars are all the way to stop. That was about an 18-foot turn. And then I also like to do a couple of quick stops, and I'll do that when these cars move out of my way. So all I'm going to do is accelerate briskly and come to a quick stop. May cause you a little extra wear on your brakes and maybe even the front tire, but I think it's well worth the investment to spend some time with your training. Ride safe. Ride often, as Chris says.
Ride often and ride safe.
Ride often, ride safe. Thank you for your time.